Thank you to Wix for sponsoring today's video. Click the link in the description to create your own website today. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hello. Today we're going to be talking about something I'm maybe a little too passionate about, and that is creating a strong portfolio website. In this video, I will discuss why you need a website, what makes a good and bad portfolio website. I will drag the out of my old website, show you how to build a website yourself, and finally, I'll reveal my new, super cool, super fresh website. I'll be answering popular questions like, what do I do if I have two different styles? And do I need to include my resume? And why do I even need a website in the first place? This video is my best attempt at helping every artist, regardless of medium, subject matter, or experience, create a website that's best for them. So let's get started. Why you need a website, yes, even in 2021. I've heard so many classmates and people online bitch and moan about getting a website, and it always boils down to, what's the point? I have an Instagram. Don't get me wrong, social media platforms are essential. They're very high visibility, and let's be real, they're completely free. But if you do have the means, I strongly recommend you having a website in addition to social media. Instagram, just like any other social media platform, is not designed to show off your portfolio. They're all about creating a stream of quick, flashy content, which is great for attracting an audience, but makes for a very unorganized and unsearchable profile. If a client wants to know if I've done work for other companies, the kind of work I've done, and the quality of that work, they're going to have a really hard time getting that from my Instagram. Any nugget of information they're looking for is going to be buried under a whole bunch of sketches and reels and other random content. And what if a client wants to get to know me as an artist? An Instagram bio is like 3 lines of text. You can try to organize your page to be a bit more client-friendly, but at the end of the day, it's just not designed to function the way you and your potential clients need it to be. Social media is great for attracting clients, while a website helps you get hired. And because websites are so flexible, you have the power to showcase your work exactly how you want. They can be super polished and professional, or they can be packed with personality. Your website is your kingdom. And if that kingdom happens to have uncensored artwork, well, show it off there, because let's face it, Instagram isn't cool like that. Keep an eye out in this next section to see how fun, diverse, and incredible your website can be. What makes a good portfolio website? Layout. I swear to God, layout is the single most important component to a website. It needs to be functional, intuitive, professional, useful, and so many other adjectives. Let's start with the homepage. This page is crucial. It needs to scream, hello, this is my art, this is what I do, this is me, in the most effective and professional way possible. You're more than welcome to blaze your own trail and do something wild, but if I can be a little candid right now, almost every single artist I've researched uses a grid gallery. And there are many reasons to use this layout. One, it's very in your face, I'm an artist. The people who find your website will know exactly what you do the second the homepage loads. 2, it shows off your style. It shows consistency. A whole screen of images shows cohesion and emphasizes your personal voice. And 3, it offers numerous chances for the person viewing to see something they like within the first second of them finding your page. One artist I'd like to highlight in particular is Cautionary. When you hover over each image, it shows either the title of the project or the title of the collection. When you click on it, it not only shows you all the artwork in that project or collection, but also tons of information about the work as well as insights into her process. If you're someone like Victo who has an enormous body of work, this is a very clever way to showcase everything in a very clean and organized way. Now, before we dive further into this layout, I'd like to address a question that some of you guys might be having. What if I have 2 different styles? What if I do art in different mediums? Don't worry, I think I have the perfect solution for you. Wes Bedrosian has 2 completely different styles, a pen and ink style and a 3D style. A grid style layout wouldn't make a lot of sense for him, so instead he split his homepage into 2 options, one for 3D and one for pen and ink. You click on whatever you want to see, browse his work, and if at any point you get curious about his other portfolio, you can simply click the button at the top of the screen. This layout is perfect for people who have 2 completely different bodies of work, and it doesn't confuse your viewer either. No need to create 2 different websites, no need to change your name and brand for each one. You can literally put everything on one website and be good. About. An artist's about section tends to include the following: a blurb about who they are as an artist, a list of clients they've worked for, and a list of awards or recognitions. They don't all look like that, but that's the gist. Back in my senior year of college, my classmates kept on asking, do I need to show my resume? No, there is not a single illustration client that needs to know that I was a Starbucks barista in 2016. Your website as a whole is essentially your resume. You may even have a page devoted to client work. So really, all you gotta do is make a list of all the companies or organizations that you've worked for and just slap it in the about section. Anyway, that's the basic outline: blurb, client list, award list, done. And, include some nice photos of yourself. But an about section does not need to be stuffy and dry. There are plenty of artists who really let their personality shine. Take, for example, Jaw Cooper. Her whole about section is amusing, but look at this last paragraph. In my free time, I am a profoundly creepy, solo camping, feral human. I own a machete. I know how to build a fire. And that's it! That's the closing line. How ominous is that? I freaking love it. Or let's look at another example, Krista Perry. First off, her about section is titled Hello, which I think is really cute and very on brand. And let's look at her about. Krista loves fun. She believes in hard work and hard play and will never turn down a good meatball sub. She loves to make art with a sense of humor and is inspired by bright colors, nostalgia, vintage ephemera, and ham. And then next to it, she has this insane bucket list that includes opening a roller rink, skydiving with her cat, and becoming friends with the ghost of Elvis Presley. I mean, who wouldn't want to hire her? Contact. I don't think I need to say much here. You can either have a little form that people can fill out, or you can just list your email. Either way, you're gonna get spam emails, so honestly, pick whichever works best for you. Branding and personalization. Social media platforms don't really give you a lot of opportunities for branding. You've got your profile pic, maybe a banner, and that's about it. But a website can and should be tailored to your personal style. Every website I've shown you has a very distinct vibe. Even with similar layouts, I would never confuse, say, Scott Bacall and Victo Nye. Obviously, their work is very different, but even the little details like the fonts they use, the accent color, and the header are all deliberately chosen to best reflect the artist. Some artists, like those two, keep things very clean and simple, but other artists add more decorative elements like illustrations or hand lettering. Jessica Hitch has this cute squiggly pencil on the bottom of her screen, and that wiggly motif is used to underline specific text. Franner's website is full of hand lettering, which makes sense for her brand because it matches her unique handwriting in her comics. And then, of course, there's your logo. Do you want it typed out in a specific font like Scott or Victo? Do you want to hand letter your own logo like Fran or Krista? Or are you a graphic design goddess like Jessica and want to create your own iconic logo? All are great so long as it fits the style of your work. And lastly, and this should go without saying, whatever font or colors you pick, you need to commit to. Don't use 5 different fonts on your website. Don't pick one color of pink, forget the hex code, and try to fudge it by picking another slightly off pink. Seriously, your life will be so much easier if you just stick to one thing. Even if you're not 100% sure that the font you picked is the best one, keeping it consistent will still make you look professional. Bonus content. Your website doesn't have to just be a portfolio of illustrations. You're totally free to include whatever content you desire, ranging from informative to fun. A lot of high-profile artists have beefy FAQs for their fans. Loish has an insanely long, detailed FAQ that tells you everything you could ever want to know about her and her work, and Victo Nye's FAQ is in English and Chinese. Jessica Hitch has an enormous page listing every possible resource an artist could want, and she even has a freaking client email helper. Have you ever had a client lowball you on a project? Have you ever freezed up and you didn't know what to write? This little helper writes the emails for you. I have never seen anything like this. This is a gift. Lastly, you can include some super fun, super silly stuff as well. If you scroll down in Krista Perry's About page, you'll see this curious little button that says, click to build your own ghost. So you click on it and it's this ridiculous dress-up game for ghosts that you could customize, randomize, and save. There's also a little About section that explains the origins of this project. So creative, so ridiculous, so memorable, iconic. Now, do you need to add all this extra stuff to your website? No, but God bless you if you have the urge to create some amazing bonus content. What not to do? Roasting my old website. Now for the fun part. Everyone, get your pitchforks ready. It's time for a roast. Let me take you on a little tour of my old website as a cautionary tale of what not to do with yours. So this is my website that I created spring of 2019, right before I graduated. It's been about 2 years now, and some things have changed a lot. Some things haven't changed very much, and we'll go through that one by one. Right here is the homepage, which I do like. I like that there's a grid. I like that I've got all my illustrations shown out, but right off the bat, there's a problem because you can very clearly tell what's my new style and what's my old style, which they kind of clash with one another. I do like that I can click on the illustration and then it's larger. I like the fact that I can go through one by one and look at all the other illustrations. I don't have to go back and forth, but my biggest problem with this is that there's no way for me to add text. So I can't explain that this is part of an illustrated story that I've done. I can't explain that this is part of Melon in March. I can't explain the personal story behind this illustration. There's just no way to add text. And what's especially infuriating is that you would think that I could like put a little widget on the side here to add some text or whatever. But for some reason, with this design template that I picked, that's just an impossibility. Like I cannot do that. The only way I could do that is if I picked a different design. So I would have to redesign the whole thing, which I don't want to do because I like this grid and it's just, there's just nothing I can do about it. And I think that's really frustrating. And it's a huge thing that I don't like about this website right off the bat. So moving on, we go to projects. There's personal work, Melon and Marsh, and Witch Baby. Personal work is kind of the same thing. It's the same kind of look, and I still cannot add text. Down to Melon and March, I've got a little bit of a summary paragraph at the top, which is nice, but I can't really expand too much into it, and that becomes a much bigger problem with Witch Baby because I do have like a little summary at the top and I do have the illustrations in order of the book, which is nice, but I still can't add text. So I can't explain who these characters are, what's going on in the scene, why I did certain illustration choices. I can't talk about anything specific. So in this particular case, because it's a story, the text is really, really important, and it's just so annoying that I can't add that anywhere. Next, we go to client work, which is probably the biggest thing that has changed since I graduated, and not for the better in hindsight. So you go to client work and you see illustration, videography, photography, and design. Right off the bat, there's a problem here because when you're looking at the homepage, there's no videography, photography, or design. It does not exist. So if someone goes to my website, they're gonna see illustration and then they see this and it's like, what the hell is this doing here? And if, if I was a videography client or a photography client and I go to my website, I'm gonna think that I don't do videography or photography or whatever, because I would have to dig to find that I do that. So it's just really disingenuous, and like, honestly, it's just stupid because it's very obvious that this is what I care about, that I only want to do illustration. So to have it tucked away, it's kind of like, what's the point? But I did this because after I graduated, I was like, I just want to do any work possible, any client work, I'll do anything. And I did some videography, I did some photography and design. That all did happen, but I really don't care to do that anymore, and it just kind of screws me over. But anyway, let's start with illustration. So we have public, which are illustrations that I've done for organizations, companies, or whatever. It's outdated. It's nice. I can click on the illustration. I can have a little information about it, the year, the company, the whatever. And then I go down here and there's private, which are kind of like family and friend commissions, which I thought was really clever at the time, but I no longer think that. I know now that there's a much better, more succinct way of showing that I've worked with clients before, and we'll talk about that later in the video. My big problem with this is, like, honestly, at the time, I thought it was really great because it's like, oh, look, I've worked with other clients before. I've done professional stuff before. Look how professional I am. But honestly, it kind of shoots me in the foot because when I'm looking at this, all I can see is how little I've done. It feels like I've done very little. It looks like I've done very little, and it doesn't feel professional. So I don't think it's actually accomplishing what I wanted it to accomplish. Then we go down to videography and we have a few videos. It's nice, I can play the video in the website. It doesn't go immediately into another tab, which is cool, but these videos do not exist on the homepage, so it still looks stupid. And then we go to photography and design, and it's nice. I've got like a little information there, and I've got my photos, and I've got like the stuff that I did, like the flyers and everything, but I cannot click on them and make them bigger. So that also just feels really freaking stupid. So I just think this whole thing needs to go. There's just so much that needs to get thrown out. None of this stuff is shown on my front page. It's so weird that it's here. It doesn't connect at all, and I don't even want to be doing this stuff in the first place, so like, whatever. Anyway, we move on to the about section, which is more or less fine. I've got my description here, which you could pause the video and read if you like, and I have the meet the artist, which I did at the time because I wanted it to kind of feel like friendly and personable, like, oh, I really know this girl. But looking at it now, I do want to replace it with a photo of myself instead, and I just kind of feel like this looks a little juvenile, so I don't want it here anymore. And then lastly, we go to contact, which has changed a lot. So right away, you get this little spread about how to commission me. You've got some prices, you've got some, additional information, terms and conditions, how to order, what to expect, all this other stuff. And the reason this is all here is because, one, I wanted to do some commission work, and this is what I created for Instagram, and I thought that made a lot of sense to put it on here. And two, I did it because a lot of the clients that I worked with never worked with an illustrator before, and they really kind of had to be walked through what the expectations were. And I thought, oh, this is perfect. They'll read this, they'll understand what they need to do, and then they'll, how to order. And then they can just put everything they need down here, and we can have a productive conversation right off the bat. That's all well and good, but there's some major problems with this. The first one being the prices here. So I have locked myself into these prices. Let's say a major magazine wants to commission me for a portrait, and it's going to be like in their magazine, full page, everyone in the world's going to see it. When they email me, they have the expectation that I'm only charging $150, and I can't change that price because it's literally on my website. There's nothing I can do to change that. But obviously, if it's a major publication or something, I'm going to charge them a lot more than $150. But by having this here, I'm actually like shooting myself in the foot. And then on top of that, the text is a little difficult to read because it's all handwritten. And also just having this how to order and what to expect and everything, a major client knows what to do. So having this here may come off as a little juvenile and a little condescending in a bit. And then down here, we have this little paragraph that says, hey, by the way, besides illustration, I do like photography, videography, and design, which is just double extra stupid because I don't even show that here.
It's literally all illustration. So it's just, I was trying really hard to incorporate that on my website, but it's just not incorporated, and it's not what I want to do at the end of the day. So I just need to get rid of that completely. And yeah, that's the whole tour. There are some things that I like. Again, I really like this grid thing. With some areas I like, but honestly, this whole website needs such an overhaul. And yeah, I can't wait to get into it because good grief, everything's got to go. It's just gotta go.
Cautionary tales from other people's websites. Alright, so we've looked at mine and all of its mistakes, but believe it or not, there are still a few other things that you need to consider or avoid when making your own website.
So obviously I love both of these artists and I think their websites are solid. These are just kind of two little nitpicky things. First we have Sachin Tang. Love it. I think the illustration page in particular is really nice. It's got that grid format like we were talking about. What I don't understand is why in Personal we have this thing. It's a really cool gimmick. You just basically scroll over each of the bars and you get each of these illustrations. I don't think it's bad per se, but personally I would prefer to see all the illustrations at once rather than having to scroll through, you know what I mean? And then over here with Kayla May, absolutely love this landing page, love the home page. Everything looks great here. We can see all the illustrations just fine. What's strange to me is when you go to exhibitions, all of the artwork is really big on the screen. Like really zoomed in. I cannot look at the image just full, like on its own. I have to scroll through and it's really awkward. On mobile, everything is fine. You can see the illustrations just fine. So I think this might have been one of those cases where it looked fine on mobile, but she didn't check to make sure that it looked good on desktop. This is just one of those examples of like you having to make sure that it looks good on all devices because it may look good on one, but it may not look good on others.
How to make your website. So we now know what makes a good portfolio website and what makes a bad portfolio website, but how do we make the website? Lucky for us, we have Wix to help us through the process. So here are my first impressions of Wix. 1, it doesn't feel like some watered down baby's first website builder. It feels like a legitimate professional program. And 2, you know how in video games there's like the skill ceiling and the skill floor? Me neither, I'm not a gamer. But basically, the skill floor is like the learning curve. If the floor is low, the beginner can quickly learn the ropes, and if the floor is high, it'll be near impossible for a beginner to get into it. The skill ceiling is the limit or lack thereof of how good you can get at a game given enough practice. A game with a low ceiling means that no matter how long you play the game, you're not going to get all that much better than a beginner. Whereas a high ceiling means that if you put in the work, you can grow tremendously. My point is, Wix feels like it has a relatively low floor and a very high ceiling. There is a learning curve. It did take me a while to get the hang of it, but once I got the basics, I very quickly realized just how far you can push it. If you want to slap together a nice looking website, you can do that no problem. But if you have specific needs, a specific aesthetic, a specific whatever, Wix is like, bet. Let's get into it.
Alright, so to start off, Wix, like every other website building platform, gives you a whole bunch of templates. The thing that I like about Wix, though, is that you can specify what kind of portfolio you're looking for. Wix has 3 different illustration portfolios that I really like. I think they're really cute. But then there's other different portfolios you can choose from as well. Tattoo artist, art portfolio, fashion design, whatever. All of these templates are customizable, and I promise you, you will find something that you're looking for. So just for shits and giggles, I opened up this one, and we're going to go into editing mode. So this is what it looks like on the back end of Wix, and there's so many things I could show you guys, but like I don't have the time or the bandwidth. I can't. But I will be showing you a few things that I think are really cool and interesting. Right off the bat, we are looking at the desktop mode. This is what the website's going to look like on a laptop or computer, but we can toggle back and forth and see what it looks like on a mobile device, which I think is amazing. So anything that you change on mobile is going to change in desktop and vice versa, which means you do not need to go back and forth customizing both things, and it gets really annoying that way. Nope, Wix has got that for you. Any specific thing on mobile, like for example, this little scroll up button, is customizable. And of course, we don't have to run into the Kayla May issue where something looks good on mobile but not on desktop. We can constantly go back and forth to make sure that everything looks good no matter where anyone is viewing it. So let's go back to here. Every single thing is customizable. That is the theme for Wix, and I'm just going to go through it one by one. First, we have this little toolbar thingy. So anything that you click on, any element, text, or whatever, you will see that you can do things to it, copy and paste it, delete it, whatever. This thingy is really cool if you want to go crazy graphic designer and just make sure that everything is precisely placed. You've got this to do that. Over here we have another toolbar thingy, and there's a lot here. Again, I'm not going to go into all of it, but let's go into the site menu. This is how we kind of build the website. These are all the pages and how they're linked and whatever. If you want to change it, that's all cool. This template, the way it works is that every image that you click on takes you to a separate page and shows you the collection of that work. So it's actually very similar to Victonai in that sense. So if you like that, that's amazing, but if you're not a big fan, no big, you can just change it in the menu section. Down here we have the add button, which is simultaneously the coolest and scariest thing because it has everything. Little strips. You want text? What kind of text? You want some images? buttons, every button in the world, and even all of these buttons are customizable in and of themselves. Gallery, we have all these different galleries and they're also customizable. Menus, social, baby, every single thing you could possibly want to add is here. It's kind of insane. Then of course we have the theme manager. So if you have a specific color palette that you want to use, you can load it up in here, as well as text. If there's a specific font you like to use, a specific style, you can load it in here so that when you add text later, you're not constantly having to change the same damn thing over and over again. So all this is amazing, but there's more. If you click on any element, you will get a whole bunch of different options to change that specific element. So this is the gallery, right? Manage media. Here is where we can add our illustrations. We can add, delete, whatever. We can add the title. We can add a description. We can link it to wherever the heck we want it to. We can even give that link a title. All of that stuff is available to us. Then we can go to settings. Guys, settings is just insane. So we go to layout, right? We can change how we want this grid to look like. We can do a little collage thingy. We can do like a little slide reel moment. We can do all these different things that we want. And get this, we can customize it even further. And each one of these designs has a different kind of customization to it. So let's say we like this, but there's something that we want to change. Maybe we want to make the thumbnails a little bit bigger. Maybe we want to reduce the amount of spacing in between it. Maybe we want to, fuck it up even further. All of this is available to us. All of it. Now we go down to settings. These are very specific things. Do we want people to download our images? I'd say no, but here we go. All that's there. Design. Look at all the buttons. Look at all the options. So overlay and icons. This is when you hover over the illustration, what happens with it. You can add a little color overlay. You can make it a little softer if you want. You can even add an overlay effect. The thing with Wix is that every single goddamn thing, you can add an animation to it, and it's kind of insane. Text. What do we want the text to be? Do we want a title? Do we want a description? How do we want it to appear? What's the style of the text? Vertical, horizontal padding. Oh my freaking god. And we're still not done. Item style. All these different little thingies right here. Scroll animations, because of course everything is animated, and you can go through all of that. And then there's the advanced button, because they're like, that wasn't enough for you. This wasn't advanced enough. Here's advanced. So if you have other video settings, you can go there as well. Every single thing is customizable. And it's not just, of course, the galleries that you can do that with. Up here, we have our little menu. Whole bunch of different buttons there. If we want to animate it, of course we can. Do we want it to bounce? Do we want it to glide? Do we want it to float? All of these things are available to us. I love them. They're amazing. We go to design. All these different designs are available, and you can still customize it further if you don't see what you like. Then we go to layout. We can do little things here too. Do we want it aligned a certain way? Do we want it to be the same size or not? This is all there as well. And then of course, if we go to manage menu, we can customize what kind of buttons are shown here, where they link it to, etc., etc. Wix is always saving. This is auto-saved all the time. But if I heck up something and I don't really like it, I can just Control Z my life away and go right back to where I was before. There's no big issue there. So that is all really freaking amazing. And I could just go on and on and on and show you like all these other different features. But like, honestly, I think you get the gist. You can do basically everything. Every template you can just rip apart and do whatever you want with it. It is incredible. And then of course, if you want to see what it looks like in the very end, we can just pop open the preview and we can interact with our new website to make sure that all the links work, to make sure that everything looks spiffy. And get this, we can of course switch it to mobile and see what it looks like on mobile as well. So guys, I'm just in love with this thing. You can do anything. So thank you, Wix, for giving us the power to do anything we want with our website.
Click the link in the description to create your own website today. Dun 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 dun! My new website. Let me take you on a little tour.
So here we go. This is my brand new, amazing, incredible website that I'm extremely freaking proud of. I've got my new logo up here in different tabs, which I'll get to in a second. And I also have my social media over here. Any of it is clickable and linkable. So we can have my YouTube channel and all my other social media, which is great. The thing that I love the most though, is that when I hover over these, I can see the title of the illustrations. And when I click on it, hallelujah, I actually have text at the title and I have a little bit of information about it. Mind you, not every single illustration has that text, but for me, it's really important that the ones that do have text show the text. That is really important. So if we go over to work, we have personal work and my digital sketchbook, which is really nice. All of that good stuff here. And my digital sketchbook looks like this. And then we go down to Mel and March. We have 2020 and 2021. 2021 obviously is not filled out all the way, but both of them have this little information about Mel and March. Then we go to contact. Honestly, nothing special here. It's just a little contact form, whatevs. And then we go to the about section and there's me. So I've got my about, I've got my clients, I've got my awards and accomplishments, I've got my email, and that is all the bitch needs. So I'm super freaking stoked with it. I know there's a million things that I could keep adding and tweaking and whatever, but for now, I'm just happy. I really, really love it, and I think it came together so well.
Conclusion. I'm so happy with this new website, you guys. My art changed a lot when I graduated from mass arts, and I've been high-key sweating because my old website doesn't match my new style that I'm showing. So it kind of felt like I outgrew it, and I have been very ready for a serious change. Wix could not have come at a better time, and I'm very grateful to them for sponsoring this video. Down in the description, you'll see a little link that takes you to the Wix website. It's not an affiliate link. I'm not making any money off of the clicks, but if you do use that link, even if it's just to peruse their website, it'll let Wix know that I did a good job and I need that validation. So there you have it. Thank you very much for watching this video. Good luck with making your own website, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye!